The writer of the Gospel of Matthew didn't actually witness all the events in Jesus' life that he wrote about. That's because he includes stories that happened before he even became one of Jesus' disciples, like the birth of Jesus, for example. That's why many Bible scholars believe that Matthew was actually quoting from earlier sources, especially the Gospel of Mark. In other words, Matthew copied some of his material from Mark. But that raises another question. Did Mark himself really witness all the events he wrote down? The answer is no. Mark wasn't one of Jesus' 12 main disciples. In fact, scholars like John R. Donahue and Daniel J. Harrington say that we don't really know who wrote the Gospel of Mark, and there's no evidence that the writer actually saw the events firsthand. The name Mark was just added later to give the book some kind of authority. Some people argue that Mark got his stories from Peter, one of Jesus' closest followers. But that's really just a theory. The Gospel of Mark never clearly says that Peter was the main source or that the author was directly reporting what Peter said. So in the end, we don't know exactly where Mark got his information or even who Mark really was. What we do know is that both the writers of Matthew and Luke used Mark as their main source. About 90% of Mark's content shows up in Matthew and about 50% is in Luke. This whole idea is known as the Markan priority, the theory that Mark was actually the first gospel written. And this is exactly why, even though the gospels might look a bit like hadiths in structure, from an Islamic perspective, they're more like hadith mawdu', or fabricated hadiths. Why? Because the chain of transmission is broken. Or to be honest, there's no chain at all. If Matthew and Luke copied Mark and we have no clue where Mark got his stories from, then how can we judge if Mark's source was trustworthy, honest, or even real? There's just no way to verify it because we don't know who it was.